Hello boxers, this is BluntestDiagram and welcome to my tutorial on a pressuring, brawling, bullying, disrespectful style, the BluntestDiagram stamina crusher method. So this is a part 2 and follow-up to my stamina lab where I promised I would do another video talking about how all of the information about stamina applies to my style and make a tutorial showcasing how to pressure and break down fighters at the highest level and score knockdowns. This is not a tutorial where I'm going to be going over how to create or make a design for a boxer with perfect attributes or punch styles or anything like that to maximize my concept. I want this video to be useful no matter what your style is, your body type, weight class, or what your punch style is. Everything that I'm going to be talking about here is really just a mindset that you can add to your game to increase your opportunities and help you look good out there. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the current state of the game. This game has to be about 14 years old, but still has a pretty dedicated community of about 2,000 online players most nights. And for every big fight in boxing, you generally see a surge in that number temporarily. Despite this, the knockout or knockdown has become somewhat of a lost art, with most of the top players preferring to exploit in-game mechanics or through hacks, to where knockouts are less and less frequent, especially when elite players are forced to play against each other. There's just no other way to say it. So many people in this game don't want to fight. They cherry pick or ninja pick, lag switch. They quit out if they're losing. They want to be Isaac Frost, but if you also pick him, they'll just sit there and stare at the screen waiting for you to back out. And when they actually do get in the damn fight, they spend the whole time backing up or sidestepping or windmilling or spamming. And then when two elite players match up, neither wants to come forward because both guys want to fight off the back foot, where everything is considerably easier. Offense in this game requires exceptional timing, but defense is simply mashing the right trigger and circling away. I know many people think they are elite with their defense because it's simply people wanting to take the easy way in life, which I think goes against the spirit of boxing and combat. Players should want to go after each other and take each other out. Nowadays, players don't even want to throw power punches during the fight, and that really limits you, robs you of good opportunities, and just shows a lack of confidence as far as I'm concerned. So, there are 3 real strategies in this game. And I don't mean styles like counter puncher, inside fighter, outside fighter, brawler, or stuff like that. Everyone has their own style and punches that they like to use and opportunities that they've trained themselves to see. And I will be going over those skills and situations in a third video where I will be creating a ranking system of skills ranging from beginner to intermediate to elite so you can see which tier you would be in. But anyway, yes, there are many styles, but there's really only 3 different strategies to employ, and you can use any of them or even all 3 at once. And I'm going to go over each of them one at a time. So the first is the fundamentals style. Fundamentals are your muscle memory responses to situations where you have good counters or see good opportunities. It simply moves you train yourself to do through experience that, beat your opponent. It's boxing knowledge. And so Daquan, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Daquan Djibouti makes the best videos about this. He'll break down common situations and tell you exactly what you need to do to turn them into opportunities. I highly, highly recommend his videos, even if you already know some of what he's talking about. It's just very validating to hear somebody so smart who, thinks exactly like you do. I'll say 2 things about fundamentals. The first is that I don't want to tell you to do this or do that because, like I said before, everyone has their own different style. They punch different. You might see opportunities that I wouldn't normally see. So I encourage you to just apply what I'm going to say later to what you already know. But if you do want to practice fundamentals, I recommend fighting against the CPU or any CPU that likes to come forward, like Ricky Hatton, to work on defense and countering. Or against Lucius Palmer, who's at middleweight, to practice putting together combos against the Philly Shell. From there, you can find the punches and counters that you like and then just apply them as you see fit. The other thing I wanted to say about the fundamental strategy of simply being better than your opponent with good boxing skills is that it should be the most common style, but it's not. The point scoring strategy I'm going to talk about next is probably the most common, especially amongst high-level or elite players, if you can even get them to match up with you. The so-called boxing elite are so afraid of facing real challenges that a hero of the community, LX Sniper, is forced to go in disguise in order to even challenge these guys and expose these fools and what a charade the leaderboards are. So the scoring system is a strategy that factors in the geometry and scoring of the game to make it way easier to win fights, especially by decision. Now, this is nothing new in versus games. If you remember the original Halo back in the day, there used to always be that rush to be the first person to get rockets. It's the same thing nowadays, except the rush is to be the first person to score so you can fight off the back foot for the rest of the fight. Some people use being ahead on the scorecards as opportunities to kind of force people to come forward and then set them up with devastating KO blows. But the overwhelming majority of matches just devolve into circling and outright running and then spamming straights at each other. It's a very, very ugly way to box, and yes, it is a skill of the game, but it's one of the easiest to learn and implement, which is why it's so common. But hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have some tools to where you never lose to certain aggravating tactics that belong in this category ever again. You can listen to Fight Night's Finest talk about scoring. Basically, I think scoring is based off of damage done, and so it tends to favor headshots, especially straights over body shots, and so people exploiting the style, tend to spam exactly that. And with hacks that some people use to enhance their stats or adjust the sliders to make themselves stronger, faster, etc., they have a much easier time fighting off the back foot the whole fight and forcing you to come forward and throw first each time. Hacks are common in lots of games, unfortunately. What's weird to me, though, is people trying to downplay their impact and insist that it's the players that aren't hacking that need to somehow step it up and learn to box better to beat the people that are cheating. But with that, with what I'm going to go over here in just a bit, you'll be able to start beating a lot of hackers as well, especially ones who are too aggressive or spam certain aggravating maneuvers. So the last strategy is my stamina bully style. The goal of it, in a nutshell, is to get your opponent to spend so much stamina that you have a much easier time against them, and ideally pressure and disrespect them towards scoring emphatic and exciting knockdowns. If you watched my stamina video, you know that throwing combinations or punches in quick succession drains you of your stamina, and when your current stamina dips temporarily because of spending, your boxer is much more vulnerable to critical hit damage during those dips. The deeper the dip, the longer and more vulnerable your guy is. And so if your stamina reaches 0 and you get hit, 1 or 2 clean punches can drop you, or at the very least hurt a lot more. This is the essence of what we want. This is the fruit of what we are trying to pick in this strategy. So how do we get them to drain stamina? And what if they don't want to punch or miss air? What if they don't want to punch and miss and just hit air the entire time? We work on our fundamentals for basic defense in the other modes. But once we have that down, we want to do things one step at a time. And the first thing we want to do is we want to move it around and create what's called the flirt line. That's an invisible line for when each time we step around or over that line, we can get a sort of dramatic reaction from our opponent. Now this includes punches, head movement, sidestepping, and if we're really, really lucky, clinching because that drains stamina the most. But the more of any of these things, the better, especially if we can implement reasonably good defense, which is just holding our opponent to 40% or less accuracy. The less, the better. Even if our opponent is not punching, but if they are sidestepping or windmilling frequently, that is good enough to where we want to allow that even if we are not ahead on points. Now, back in the day, whenever somebody would just spam head movement or sidestepping, I didn't know what to do, and it would be so aggravating that I would automatically lose fights. But now, whenever I see it, I want you to understand that basically they're spending stamina a lot more than if they were missing punches the entire time. And so we want to allow that, and in a couple of rounds, even with us doing nothing else, with us not even scoring, they're going to be so tired that we're going to be able to capitalize. You technically don't need to be throwing any punches back if someone is sidestep or head movement spamming because they are hurting themselves enough to where you don't need to take any risks. Just keep pretending like you're confused about what's going on and about to come forward at any time and walk into a counter, but then just keep staying safe and repeating. Once the stamina advantages start to take effect, sometimes as early as round 1, depending on the skill of your opponent, try to score smart jabs or other bread and butter moves you might have when you see opportunities to score, and maintain lead on the scorecards to exert mental pressure on your opponent. Now, some people won't come forward no matter what, even if they are losing every round on the scorecards. They might be hoping for a flash KO off of a counter. Maybe they've just entirely given up and they're just going through the motions. But we want to be aggressive. We want to be the aggressive one for the majority of the fight, especially at the end. We want to be going for KOs to really showcase extreme dominance. We want them to be forced into throwing and missing, thus depleting stamina or in getting knocked out for being too passive. So if your opponent is not sidestepping or using head movement, we want to be patient again. We want to try and use jabs to force reactions from him, especially head movement and sidesteps. But if he does nothing in reaction to these jabs scoring, use the training you did against Lucius Palmer to start putting together combinations in just 2 or 3 punches and keeping that stamina as high as possible. And you will drop your opponent if they aren't throwing back. And so they'll be forced to either fight back or start using head movement or steps if they don't want to get dropped. They either have to fight back or get knocked out, and now we can attack their stamina even if they don't really want to fight or push themselves. But it's very important we maintain our own stamina as high as possible when we're being aggressive. We don't want to gas ourselves because we got too excited and then blew any advantages away. If your opponent is throwing 1 or 2 punches at a time, we want to wait for them to throw a punch and then throw one right back as soon as their arms are extended to increase the likelihood of scoring. Throwing to the body works best to drain them of stamina, but jabs to the face also work great at both dealing damage and draining stamina, especially when your opponent is caught with the clean jab from exactly the right distance at the very end or in the middle of their combos, enough to jam their animation and alter it. When our jabs are doing heavy damage at the very end of our opponent's combos, that's a great sign for us. Now we want to attack their stamina recovery. If your opponent is being aggressive with their stamina and punching in long continuous combinations, around the 4th or 5th punch, we want to always throw 1 or 2, maybe even more punches to the body, depending on how clean we can get them off. But we still want to maintain good defense. If we throw a good 2-punch combination, though, right at the end of our opponent's string, we interrupt their ability to recover stamina. Think of each punch your opponent throws as beats on a music sheet. If they throw 2 punches in quick succession, it will take them 2 of those same quick beats to recover stamina. Not that long. But if they throw 4 or 5, then it will take them 5 beats to recover that stamina. And then let's say that I hit them in the body with 2 punches right at the end of their combo. Now they lost even more stamina when they were supposed to be resting, so now the opponent has spent 7 beats. They think that they've rested and instinctually throw back, but what they don't realize is that their stamina has gotten lower, and so now we can walk right into those punches and trade and brawl and bully them. And this is what our goal is, to get to the point where we can disrespect our opponents. If we can get them to throw even when they're tired, we can walk right through that and disrespect them, and then the knockouts are coming. Now, keep in mind, beats that spend stamina aren't just punches. It's also head movement, sidestepping, clinching, and absorbing punches. So we want to fill in any of those rest periods with just 1 or 2 punches to steal away that recovery time and force our opponent to get out, to fight or get outworked. And this is the physicality of the game. Whenever I play, I always get Teddy commenting about how physical and well-conditioned I am going into the later rounds and how intelligent. And Teddy will tell you what's up. This has been BluntestDiagram with my personal style tutorial. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.